Hi, welcome to Equipping and Building. I'm Tarek Khan. We're going to talk about evangelism, especially in light of evangelism to Muslims. And there's a lot of hope regarding that. I'm going to be covering kind of where we are and what's been going on. I'm going to talk about that there's reason to hope because there's some very good things happening. And also look at the reality that we need more people to bring 1.9 billion Muslims to Christ, or as many of them as the Lord chooses. Let's first look at how we're doing. Things are much better than they were. Even as late as 1960, there were maybe 250,000 people who had come to Christ from the Muslim world. After 1960 to about now, we've come now to about, some estimates are between 5 and 18 million. Most commonly, people are saying around 10. I do think that's probably difficult to actually ascertain, because there's a lot of people that won't say, yes, I became a Christian, because they are afraid of their own security and their life in general. So one thing to look at is where these folks are becoming Christian. There's a lot of people in the United States where I live, and people are coming to Christ because they're exposed to other things besides Islam. In the actual Muslim world, there's a focus in Africa, in the Middle East, and in Central Asia. That's sort of the places where a lot of them are coming. And there's a little bit of difficulty because back around 2004, 2005, there might have been about 4,000 professional missionaries to the Muslim world. That's about one missionary per 375,000 people. Now, there's only about 5,000 missionaries, and that's one missionary per 380,000 Muslims. Another problem that people are having in going to the Muslim world as professionals is the amount of training that they need. If they're not from a Muslim background, especially, they need about 2 to 4 years of training. And there's a lot of people that find that difficult to overcome. And then there's difficulties with sharing the gospel there. But there is hope. Recently, there's been a lot of visions and dreams, recently being in the last 10 to 20 years. There's been a lot of visions and dreams and miracles happening in the Muslim world. And the Lord is bringing many people to Christ through that. In fact, I think in Iran alone, there's at least 2 million that have come recently. And that's in the last 5 to 10 years. Part of it is there's a lot of reasons in the Muslim world, in some parts of it anyway, where there are wars or very difficult times, and people are re-examining their foundations. As you well know, Islam is a very foundational religion for behavior as well as principles, and of course, following God. But the idea of Islam is that it's sort of a code for the conduct of your entire life. I mentioned the dreams and visions. These people are not coming to Christ simply by receiving a dream. In fact, some of them receive a dream, and it takes another 20 to 30 years for them to come to Christ because there's a lot of resistance, partly in their teaching and also in their culture. And then families are very resistant to people who have given their life to follow Jesus Christ as Lord. So how should we, as non-professional or maybe even as professional sharers of the gospel, talk to Muslims? As I said before, we get to share the gospel. It's a privilege. It's like an invitation to a party. And for some people, they think, well, we can live our life in front of the people we're trying to share with, and they will come to Christ. There's a thing about the Christian message. It's the good news. And as you would think with regular news, like from the TV, it's spoken. We do need to speak, and I think a lot of people are doing that. And we can, even though there are difficulties, we can do better than we've done so far. So what should we be doing? We are all called to evangelize. And where we don't have information or understanding of the Muslim world, we can get it. That's one of the things that I'm going to try to do by God's grace, to shed some light, some information, and help my audience see, maybe through my eyes to some degree, and also many of the people that I've talked to who've come to Christ from the Muslim world, to share with you all some of the things that we can do in terms of understanding Islam, knowing what some of the barriers are, how to overcome them, and even some ways to start conversations in the Muslim world that are spiritual, and to then lead from that into the gospel message without cheapening it, watering it down, or trying to bridge from things that just aren't true. In the next several videos, I'm going to be looking at what are the beliefs and the actions that are considered major and foundational in Islam. I'm going to look at the differences between some of the Muslim beliefs. So, for instance, there's Shia and there's Sunni. There's people who believe that Islam is a religion of peace, and I think the majority of them, the vast majority, at least around 75%, from some of the information gathered by Pew Research. And others, they look at jihad as not a personal struggle, but as an actual struggle against other people. That can be seen by people shouting for jihad in the streets. That's obviously not a personal struggle. But we'll go into why that's different, and we'll look at verses in the Quran that support both sides of that. And we'll talk about one of the most controversial things called substitution. Some people call it abrogation, but it's actually substitution. We'll also delve into a little bit of what is a 12er. Why do some Muslims think that the Mahdi, the last prophet, according to some beliefs, is coming? Most Muslims, by the way, think that Muhammad was the last prophet. Some people believe that the Mahdi that's coming is already here and he's in hiding or being hidden by God. And so we'll go into all of that, and we'll look into how to evangelize in light of those things and what to say. And the things that I'm going to talk about have been tested in the field. They've been shared with others. Others have also used them, and they've worked well. That means people have come to Christ. And sometimes it takes a while, and sometimes quickly. Thank you for watching.